session now. Good morning, one and all. This is a very important 2 hour lecture session on ad hoc wireless sensor network and MAC protocol. Now, in this session, we are going to see what are the different types of MACA protocol. What are the different types of MAC protocol we will see in this session. And there are different 3 types of contention based MAC protocol is there, that also we will see now. So as it happened last week, I'll just give you another very small brief introduction about what is MAC protocol. So as you can see, it is medium access protocol. So nodes in ad hoc wireless sensor network, they are sharing the common broadcast radio channel or the air. So all the nodes are trying to fetch information from the same radio channel. Now, since the radio spectrum is limited, or since all the nodes are within a very constrained bandwidth, then access to this shared media by all nodes must be controlled so that all the nodes get fair share of access of the air channel. That means it is very much necessary that there should be a rule with how much data rate, with how much accessibility all the nodes can fetch information or put information on the air media or channel. So MAC actually ensures that. So MAC ensures a few things, that is most efficient utilization of bandwidth. Then MAC also ensures that no node is given more preference, or there is no favoritism of channel allocation. That means all the nodes should get a fair amount of channel allocation. All the nodes should be able to put all the data to the channel for transmission, or can fetch data from the channel properly. So there should be no favoritism, and there should be a fairness of transmission and reception. Then if there is a limited bandwidth problem, then MAC should see that whichever node is having very important data, that node should be given more channel allocation. Which node is not having any data for transfer or reception, that node should be given lesser bandwidth. So there should be a dynamic bandwidth allocation that is also to be controlled by the MAC. Then there are different error prone broadcast channels. So it is possible that through some channel there is getting added some amount of noise packets or some amount of unwanted packets. So that has to be removed by the MAC protocol, or that should be controlled. Then there is a very important factor which is called as hidden and exposed terminal problem. So what is hidden terminal problem? What is exposed terminal problem? We will be seeing towards the end of this slide. So those problem also has to be controlled by MAC protocol. And power constraints. So energy is always a problem in case of ad hoc wireless network, because it works in a energy constraint environment. So the MAC protocol should ensure that no channel is unnecessarily transmitting or receiving data, because an unseasoned transmission and reception of data reduces the power in the node. So if some node is over transmitting or over receiving, that node will get drained out. So MAC has to check that the power constraint problem does not arise in case of the whole network. So hence, medium access controller MAC for wireless network must have different design than the wired MAC protocol. So previously there used to be wired protocol. All the sensor nodes were wired, and through wire they were connected to the base station for data transmission and control. But research and advancement in wireless network has enabled us so that we can design our wireless ad hoc network. So design of MAC for wireless ad hoc network should be different than that of wired ad hoc MAC. With this introduction, we will go for the next slide. So there are some very important fundamentals we will discuss in this lecture. First fundamental is what is meant by sensing range and what is meant by communication range. So see here, this is the sensor node N1. This sensor node is having some sensors in it. This sensor node is having the processor unit, memory unit, and some communication unit. That communication can be Zigbee, that communication can be infrared or maybe a Bluetooth or something. So depending on the communication range, the area for which it can transmit data is different. But here we are not talking about the communication range, here we are talking about sensing range. So sensing range for this sensor node is N1. N1 is area A. What is meant by sensing range? Now the sensor node N1 is having let's say a temperature sensor. Not necessarily always it has to be temperature sensor, but let us say we are sensing temperature within an area. Now temperature for how much area this node can sense is given by the sensing range. So that sensing range depends on what temperature range is fitted with this node N1. Whatever temperature sensor is fitted with this node N1, okay, that temperature sensor can sense temperature within this green area. Outside this green area, temperature cannot be sensed by that sensor which is fitted on N1. So N1 is having some sensors, N1 is having a communication module. Whatever sensor is kept on this N1 for sensing one parameter, let's say temperature, that parameter can be sensed within area A. So here I have shown the radius as small a, and here the data direction is towards N1. That means from this periphery, that green area, and anywhere within this periphery, anywhere within this green area A, or with a radius of small a, temperature can be sensed by the temperature sensor which is fitted on node N1. So this is the significance. What is written? Sensor node N1 is having a temperature sensor. It can be any sensors. Okay, processor and transceiver. Transceiver is nothing but transmitter and receiver. That can be a communication module. So every sensor node now onwards, whatever we'll be talking, will be having a transmitter and receiver node. Now that transmitter and receiver might be using different communication techniques. It can be using Wi-Fi, RF, can be using LoRa, it can be using Zigbee or IR or maybe Bluetooth or something. So that we will see later on. But now what we can find is the sensor on board N1, whatever is the sensing range of that sensor which is put on node N1. So N1 is a sensor node and temperature is a sensor. They are different. So N1 node is having sensor, processor, transceiver, power management unit, maybe some location identifying unit, and some mobilizing unit, all those things on it. So N1 is a sensor node, and on that there is a temperature sensor. So whatever is the range of that temperature sensor is called as sensing range for this node N1. So this is what is written. Sensor node N1 is having a temperature sensor, processor, transceiver unit in it. The temperature sensor is a non-contact type sensor. That means through some air medium, or even if there is no contact between the heated object and that sensor which is there with sensor node N1, that sensor, temperature sensor, can sense the temperature of that object from far. Okay, suppose here there is a heated object at this periphery. So whichever is the temperature sensor here, it can say that yes, the temperature of this heated object is maybe 50 degree or so. So this is called a non-contact type of temperature sensing. So it is said that the temperature sensor is a non-contact type sensor, range for which the temperature sensor can sense temperature around the node N1, given by a green circle around N1, is called the sensing range of node N1. So sensing range of any sensor node is defined by the range of the sensor which is fitted to that sensor node. So there are two things. One is sensor node comprising sensor, processor, memory, communication unit, power unit and all. And one part of sensor node is a sensor. So whatever is the range of that sensor, whatever is the sensing range of that sensor is called as sensing range of this sensor node. So this third line is very important. The range for which the temperature sensor can sense temperature around node N1, given by the green circle, given by the green area of radius small a and area capital A. is given by the sensing range of node N1. Then we'll see what is meant by communication range. So communication range is something which is bigger. So in this case, you can see that the same node N1 is having a sensing range given by capital A. So around node N1 there is a region called as capital A, and around node N1 there is a blue region which is given by communication range. So blue region is bigger. What is this blue region? This blue region is the region up to which the node N1 can transmit data or can receive data. What is the data? Data is the temperature that it senses within this green area. So first, this N1 sensor node is there that will sense temperature within sensing range. So within sensing range, it will sense the data, and this sensor node N1 will accumulate all the temperature data within area A. Then this sensor node N1 would like to communicate with other sensor nodes. So here N2 and N3, two different sensor nodes. I have seen other sensor nodes. So N1 wants to tell this N3 and N2 that around me within the area capital A, this much is the temperature. So first N1 accumulates the data, and then N1 wants to communicate that data to other sensor nodes N2 and N3. So if another node N3 is within the communication area, so communication range is given by radius B. So this red radius is the communication range radius. Here this A, small a, was the sensing range radius. So as this communication range is given by B, small b, or area is given by capital B pi r square, that is pi b square. Okay, so within this blue region, this sensor node N1 can send data or can receive data. So you can check that N3 is another sensor node which is within the communication range blue area. So N1 and N3 can communicate and exchange data with each other. But N2 is another sensor node which is outside the communication range of node N1. Hence, there is no data transmission between N1 and N2. So here is the communication range. So communication range is area B, whereas sensing range is area A, and communication range depends on this length of this B, small b, depends on what type of communication technology we are using. So if you are using communication technology as ZigBee, so it will be around 100 meters. With 100 meters radius or distance, we can transmit the data. If we are using RF, in that case, the distance will be more. Okay, so likewise. So here it is said that sensor node or sensor node N1, sensor node or sender node. So N1 is called a sender node because it is sending temperature data within the area capital A from its own location to another sensor node N3. So sensor node N1 or sender node N1 can communicate. What is meant by communicate? Send and receive the sense data. What is the sense data? Temperature which is sensed within area capital A. So N1 can sense and send data or receive data with other nodes within the area B with radius of small b. So small b radius or capital B area is called as the communication range for node N1, and generally we find that the small b is greater than small a. That means generally we see that communication range is kept greater than sensing range. So we sense from a very small area, but that data we can transmit for a longer distance. Now the last line it is said that the node N2 is outside communication range of N1. So we have seen that this node N2 is outside this blue circle. That means this node N2 cannot receive data from N1. But N3 is within the communication range. Hence N3 can receive data from N1. So N1 and N3 can make a communication pair. So N1 and N3 can make a communication pair, and N1 and N3 can exchange data among themselves. So a very important question, what is the difference between sensing range and communication range? In one line, if you want to explain, sensing range is nothing but the range of the sensor which senses the data around sensor node N1. That is capital N1. And what is communication range? Communication range is the range of data exchange distance by keeping N1 at the center and around it. So in this case, you can check the sensing range is capital A, communication range is capital B. And capital B is having a bigger area because the radius small b is greater than sensing range small a. Very important question. What is sensing range? What is communication range? So with this diagram, you have to explain. So we have explained all this by means of cellular network. Let us check what is a multi-path, multi-hop, ad hoc kind of network. So it's a scenario I have given. So this kind of diagram you can draw anywhere. And for any other example, while explaining what is meant by multi-hop, single hop, ad hoc network and all. So this is just a scenario. And this diagram we will check, and this diagram we will use for all our next explanations and all. What we are seeing is here there is a sender. So this is a node. This is also same as the other nodes. Okay, this sender node is also having communication protocol, communication transceivers. They are also having sensors, and they are also having microprocessor, microcontroller. The sender node S is also having some energy unit, battery backup. They might be having GPS, or they might be having global positioning identifying hardware, and they also might be having some mobilizing unit like flagella, wheels and other things. All the nodes here, even receiver nodes is also might be also having sensors and processors and memory and other things. So all nodes are same. Okay, all nodes are having all these hardware facilities and all the protocols and everything. Then why this is sensor node? Because whatever event has occurred here, all those data packets are with sender node S, and this sender node S wants to send the data maybe to receiver R1. So one set of data packet is for R1, another set of data packet is for receiver R2. Okay, and these are intermediate nodes. So N1, N2, N3, N4, N5, N6, N7, N8, N9. All these are intermediate peer node or router node. Likewise, so there are different paths. So now let us first check. All nodes are having sensors, processors, memory, communication, transceiver, module, etc. All nodes, even sender, receiver, they are also having all those things with them. What are the different paths? So if I want to go from sender S to receiver R1, okay. So what is the easiest path? Easiest path is the blue path, path 3. So from sender S to N8 to N9 and then receiver path. So this is called one hop. Okay, so from sender S to N1, N8 is called one hop. N8 to N9 is called another hop. N9 to receiver is called another hop. So with 3 single hops, okay, data can be sent from sender S to receiver R1. So this is called as a multi-hop transmission, because sender S to receiver R1 cannot be reached in direct single transmission, because R1 is quite far off from sender S. Hence, it takes the intermediate path, peer node or other route node path. Okay, so sender S sends data to N8, it routes it to N9, N9 routes it to receiver R1. So this is the forwarding path, and you can check that this is a bidirectional kind of a path that I have shown. So this link is bidirectional. N8 can send data to sender S can send data to N8. Both are possible. So all this N8, N9, N5, N6, they are all called peer nodes, route nodes. So here also N4, N3, they are called peer node, route nodes and all. So how many paths are there so that I can send the data from S to R1? So one path is the blue path, that is path 3, N8, N9, receiver R1. Now check how many paths are there from sender S to R2. Okay, so from S to N5, N5 to N6, N6 to N7 and to R2. This is one path. Another path is sender S to N1, N1 to N2, N2 to N3, N3 to N4 and then receiver R2. So these are direct paths which are visible. But what is written here, from sender S to R1, there are 3 routes. So there are 3 possible ways through which I can send the data from S to R1. So which are the paths? One path is S, N8, N9 and receiver R1. Check that. Second path is S, N5, N6, and this is an intermediate link between 2 paths. Okay, so these pink links are very important. So between the N5, N6, N7 path and N8, N9 receiver path, this is the intermediate link. Okay, these are very important. So from one path to another path, they are connecting the data path. So from S to R1, there are three paths. One is N8, N9, R1. Another is N5, N6, N9, and R1. Okay, so S to N5, N6, then this intermediate link N9, and then R1. Another path is sender S to N1, N2, N3, then N6, then N9, and then R1. So I'll repeat: S to N1, N2, N3, N6, N9, and then R1. So these are the three routes through which data can be sent from sender S to receiver R1. Check for S to R2. So if you want to receive R2 with data from sender S, how many paths? So there are 5 routes which are possible. So whichever path you select, or whichever path the network selects, that comes afterwards. But how many routes are there, that we are supposed to determine. So two paths very easily visible: S to N1, N2, N3, N4, and receiver R2. This is the red path, path 1. Second path is the black path, that is N5, N6, N7, and R2. Very simple. Third path is S to N8, N9, N6, N7, and then receiver R2. There is a third path. Fourth path is sender S to N1, N2, N3, then go here N6, and then N7, and then R2. Okay, suppose there is some problem with node N4. N4 has gone bad. Then what happens? So sender S to N1, N2, N3, then N6, then N7, and then receiver R2. So these are 4 paths. One path is N1, N2, N3, N4, R2. Another is N5, N6, N7, R2. Another is N8, N9, N6, N7, R2. Another is N1, N2, N3, N6, N7, R2. What is another path? The last path is very critical. Just check. Sender S to N8, then N9, then N6, then N3, then N4, and then R2. Let's say N7 has gone bad, okay, and you want to send the data through N8 to R2. Then what happens? So N7 has gone bad, but you want to use N8 because this is full of energy. Okay, so whenever a node is full of energy means it must be taken in the route path, because full of energy means that will not fail, that node will not fail, that will definitely take the data from sender to the receiver. So sender S to N8, N8 to N9, N6, N7 has gone bad, so we cannot go in right direction from N6. Come below N3, suppose N4 is working, and then receiver R2. So these are the routing paths. So for S to R1 there are 3 paths, for S to R2 there are 5 paths. So these are 5 routes and 3 routes. Now depending on the algorithm, depending on your choice, or depending on the choice of the network, whatever is algorithm fixed in it, the network decides which path to be taken if we want to transmit data from sender S to R1 and sender S to R2. So this is all about this diagram. Now one very important thing about this diagram is this N6 I have shown differently because this N6 is the busiest node and it is almost common to all the paths. So there are mainly 5 paths and this N6 is almost common to all the paths. So N6 would get discharged before others because whichever path you use, N6 will come into picture. So too many times it will be accepting and sending the data over communication channels. So all these lines, red line, black line, blue line, they are called communication links, and such many links are together joined to make a communication path or route. Now the 6 is almost common for all the routes, hence energy requirement for data acceptance, transmission, reception by N6 will be too high, hence N6 will discharge before others. So we have to take care that one node is not overused. Okay, so this is all about this communication thing by a ad hoc sensor node. And very important thing is all these nodes. So here is a topology I have shown. Not necessarily that topology will be fixed. It is very much possible that all the sensor nodes are moving here and there. In that case, the path, route, link length, all those things will dynamically vary over time. And then also we have to keep the link intact. We have to keep the path intact so that we can send data from sender to the receiver. So it's a highly dynamic situation, among which also we should be able to transmit data and keep the communication link intact. So this is just to tell you what is meant by multi-hop and multi-path. So what is meant by multi-path? From sender to the receiver, there are many paths. Okay, so this is called multi-path. So from sender S to receiver R2, there are 5 routes. So there are 5 possible paths through which data can be sent from S to R2. So this is called as a multi-path communication. What is meant by multi-hop communication? So S to R1 directly you see it is taking 3 hops, 1 link, 2 link and 3 links. So through all these 3 links, data is transmitted from sender S to receiver R1. So it is called 3 hops. First hop is S to N8, second hop is N8 to N9, third hop is from N9 to R1. So this is called as a multi-path as well as multi-hop and ad hoc network. What is meant by ad hoc? Position of all the nodes are highly dynamic. They can be mobile, they can be moving here and there, and then also we should be able to transmit data from sender to the receiver. So medium access control actually ensures that even if the nodes are mobile and all, then also they should be able to transmit data from transmitter to the receiver without any kind of drop of packets, and quality of service should be high. Okay. Classification of MAC protocol. So this was I started this topic last day, could not complete it. So there are mainly 3 types of MAC protocols. One is contention based, one is contention based MAC with reservation. So in contention based simple type, we are not reserving any bandwidth, we are not reserving any time slot for one path of sensor for sending data from transmitter to the receiver. So contention based protocol simple, the first type, it cannot guarantee quality of service. That's why the first type contention based protocol, it cannot be used for highly reliable communications like voice or data. Okay, so contention based protocol simple type, it is not able to provide quality of service. Whereas the contention based protocol with reservation, so there you are using a reservation of bandwidth. That means we are allocating a certain bandwidth to every sensor node. Hence, the quality of service can be ensured in case of second case up to a certain extent. So if every sensor node is allotted some kind of bandwidth, in that case no sensor nodes, intermediate sensor nodes will be short of bandwidth while sending or receiving data. Hence, contention based protocol with reservation mechanism can provide quality of service. It can be used for data or voice transfer from source to the receiver. Third type, contention based protocol with scheduling. So it's a time scheduling kind of a thing. We will see shortly how the scheduling mechanism ensures quality of service, that data will be transmitted from the source to the receiver without any kind of hassles. So there are 3 types of MAC protocol. First type, contention based protocol, it does not ensure quality of service. Hence it cannot be used for voice or data transfer. Then MAC protocol 2 and 3, they are with reservation, with scheduling. They can provide QoS. They can be used for voice or data transmission over channel. So 2 or 3. Now let us see what is the first type of contention based MAC protocol. So last day also we started discussing what is meant by contention. So there are many sensor nodes. Suppose one sensor node receives a data packet for forwarding from the source, from that point to the receiver. It contends. What is meant by contends? It fights with its neighbor nodes for access of the common or shared channel. Okay, so as soon as it receives the data for transmission, it starts fighting for the access of the channel. So contention based protocol cannot provide QoS guarantee to the session, since nodes are not guaranteed regular access to the channel. So as soon as the node is having some data, after it has the data, it starts fighting for the channel or contending for the channel. Not necessarily that it will be given the access to the channel. So it starts contending, but it is not getting any kind of access. What happens to the data packet? Data packet are lost after a certain time. So if it's a proper network, we cannot depend on a simple contention based MAC protocol. because if there is no guarantee that it can have a channel for transmission after data packets are given to it, then there is no point giving important data or voice signal to this sensor node, because it cannot have a contention for a channel. Okay. So content service protocols are of two types: sender node initiated. So here the sender node starts fighting for a channel from the sender to the receiver. It's of two types: single channel sender initiated and multi-channel sender initiated. So previous diagram I had shown you, one sender is sending data to the receiver by two different paths or five different paths. So that is called as multi-channel sender initiated protocol. So for single channel sender initiated protocol, only one channel will be winning the contention, whereas multi-channel sender initiated protocol, there are many channels together, they win the contention, and together they transmit the packet from the sender to the receiver. So in multi-channel sender initiated protocol, the transmission of data from transmitter to the receiver happens very fast, because the same amount of set of data packets, they are transmitted over multiple channels. So it's a multi-path, multi-hop kind of a transmission, and all the data packets are sent from sender to the receiver within a shorter time. So this is sender node initiated packet transfer. What is meant by receiver node initiated packet transfer? Here, when the receiver gets the information that yes, there are some data packet waiting for them at some sender or transmitter point, then the receiver will content for the channel from that transmitter to the receiver, and when the receiver wins the contention, then the data packet will be put on the channel by the transmitter and it will be received by the receiver. So this contention-based MAC protocol, it cannot support real-time data traffic as it can't produce QoS for channel access. We have discussed it because it's very simple contention-based MAC. There is no surety that the channel will be given the access for the media or the medium or air. Okay. Hence, this simple contention-based MAC cannot ensure what is the quality of service. What is meant by quality of service? So this is the topic of the third chapter, but then also we will see here there are many guaranteed services that can be offered by a network service provider to the network user. But here we shall consider mainly three types of services which are falling under QoS as given below. What is the first thing? Data packet should reach from the sender node to the receiver node within a prefixed finite time. So if I am saying there is a sender node and with 6 or 7 intermediate router nodes, it should reach to the receiver. Suppose it's a multi-hop type of communication, there are some 7 or 8 links in between. Each link takes 1 second. So let's say from the sender to the receiver, it should take maximum 10 seconds for the data transmission to happen. Then quality of service ensures that from the transmitter to the receiver, data is transmitted within 10 seconds. Example, it is like we want to send a letter of application from our place to maybe Delhi or somewhere. Okay, and we ask the FedEx or we ask the courier service how many days will it take. So he says 3 days. So the data should reach from myself to the destination point within 3 days. If it reaches after 30 days, there is no point. That application time slot is already lost. So delaying data packet transmission is not allowed in a channel with high quality of service. So first you have to know how much is the prefixed finite time for the data transmission from source to the receiver, and the data should be transmitted or should reach the receiver within that prefixed time. The first is the time, second is the packet count. So within the data packet, data is there. So I can send suppose 15 data packets. If I am sending 15 data packets from the source, 15 data packets should be received by the receiver. It should not happen that I am sending 15 packets from here, but I am receiving 20 packets there, or I am sending 15 packets from here and I am receiving 10 packets there. It should not happen. So packet drop during data transmission is not allowed for good quality of service. So a good quality of courier service, they will supply or they will send the packet very properly, and whenever they will deliver, we will check that yes, the object whatever was delivered is in proper count. And third thing is the quality of the data sent by the sender node must be unaltered at the receiver side. So whatever data you are sending, whenever it is on channel or through the channel, whenever it is passing, should not happen that the data is getting altered. Okay, so the data should reach to the receiver side within time. Data should reach to the receiver side in the same count. Number of data packet count should be same. And third thing, the data whenever it is received at the receiver side, it should not be changed or it should not be altered. So all the shape, size, count and time of data should be very proper from the transmitter to the receiver. So these three things together is mainly primarily the first three factors of quality of service. There are other quality of services as well. We will see in chapter number 3. We come to contention based MAC protocol with reservation. So what actually we are reserving here for real-time traffic support through wireless network, QoS guarantee is to be provided. In contention-based protocol, nodes are not guaranteed periodic access. Okay, but in contention-based protocol with reservation, we are reserving bandwidth as a priori. As a priori means from before only we are deciding that yes, each node should be given some amount of bandwidth, so that whenever it is having some data to be transmitted, it will not fall short of bandwidth and that data will be transmitted or data will be received from the media properly. So in contention based MAC with reservation, we are actually reserving some bandwidth for every sensor node or every sender node for data transmission and reception. Hence, we are able to offer quality of service in contention based MAC with reservation. It's of two types. One is synchronous protocol, one is asynchronous protocol. In synchronous protocol, all the nodes starting from the sender to the receiver or intermediate routing nodes all are in time sync or time synchronization. Hence, reservation made by a node or reservation made by a node is known to all. So if there is a routing path, if there are three intermediate nodes, sender, receiver, so there are total 5 nodes, one sender, one receiver and 3 intermediate nodes. As soon as reservation is made, so all these 5 nodes come to know that exactly at this time, this many packets will be coming and we have to take all these 5 packets from the sender to the receiver. So as soon as the reservation is made by a node, it is known to all the other intermediate nodes in the vicinity and they will know about the transmission, what time it is going to happen, how many packets has to be transmitted and quality has to be unaltered while transmitting the packet from the transmitter to the receive node. So all the nodes are in sync. Okay. So global time synchronization is difficult to achieve in any kind of synchronous protocol also, but at least local time synchronization we can achieve. So what is known as synchronous protocol? In this, all the nodes in the routing path, transmitter, receiver or sender, receiver, everybody is in sync, everybody is in the work together. So they know what is to be done and they will do it very properly. What is known as asynchronous protocol? In this, nodes do not have global time synchronization. The protocol use relative time information for effecting reservation. So here also, they are not, all the nodes are not in proper sync, but somehow they try to work and try to send the packet from the transmitter to the receiver with bandwidth reservation, but there may be some time jitters, there may be some time mismanagement, time misalignment in case of asynchronous protocol. Then we will see what is meant by contention based MAC protocol with scheduling mechanism. Now, whenever I'm talking about scheduling, there can be different types of scheduling, but here I'll explain what is meant by time scheduling mechanism. So previously I had shown you diagram that from one sender node to the one receiver node, there are 3 routes, and from one sender node to the another receiver node, there are 5 routes. Okay, so that diagram you have to remember. So this protocol focuses on packet scheduling at nodes and also schedules nodes for access of the channel. Okay, so all nodes are treated fairly so that no nodes starve for bandwidth and no nodes starve for communication or data transmission reception time. It should not happen that one node throughout is transmitting or receiving data, other node, transmitting node, they are having the data with them, but they are not allotted any time for data transmission or reception. It should not happen. So there should be a fairness. Every node should be pooled. Okay, so there should be polling. First, sender 1 to receiver 1 for first 10 seconds. Then maybe next 10 seconds sender 2 to receiver 2. Again next 10 seconds sender 3 to receiver 3. Okay, the polling happens. Again in the next, again sender 1 to the receiver 1. Then sender 2 to the receiver 2. Then sender 3 to receiver 3. And such thing should go on. Okay, so this is called kind of a scheduling. If there are many senders and many receivers. If there is if there are many senders and one receiver, so suppose sender 1 to receiver in first 10 seconds, sender 2 to receiver in next 10 seconds, sender 3 to receiver in next 10 seconds. Again the polling goes to sender 1. So every sender node gets access of the receiver for a certain time slot. This is what is said last. So some scheduling scheme also takes the account of battery characteristics as remaining battery power while scheduling node for access to the channel. So not every time it is a time, at certain time you have to check that whatever nodes we are taking into account, the nodes are not exhausted. The nodes are having enough battery power with them so that they can be scheduled for data transmission from the source to the receiver. Okay. Now let us take a time scheduling case. In this case, it is said that many sender to many receiver. So between sender S1 to R1, there are many intermediate nodes as well. Okay, and sender 1 to receiver 1. It's, let's say, channel 1 data packet. Okay, so there are many intermediate nodes here also. So sender 1 to receiver 1. So this is many sender, many receiver. Contention based MAC protocol with time scheduling, and it is said that data transmit one channel at a time. That means first the channel 1 is given the access. Okay, all the other channels are kept open. So first sender 1 will send the data to R1. So all these green packets will receive from the transmitter to the receiver from time 0 to 10 seconds. So first channel connected is given by yellow. Other channels are not connected. So this is the contention based MAC protocol with time scheduling. What happens from 10 seconds to 20 seconds? And so this is the scenario, this is the case. So here there are many paths. So this case actually I have shown like this. So there is one sender and one receiver. So let's say this is sender 1 to receiver 1, this path. So for the first 10 seconds, this path is active. In the next 10 seconds, this black path is active. In the next 10 seconds, the red path is active likewise. So that is shown in the slide. Then let's say from 10 seconds to 20 seconds, channel 1 is inactive, channel 3 is inactive, channel 4 is inactive, but channel 2 has been kept connected. Okay, so 10 seconds to 20 seconds, all this saffron kind of packets, they are transmitted from S2 to R2. This is the second case. So this contention based MAC protocol with time scheduling, many sender, many receiver. In the next 10 seconds, let's say channel 1, channel 3, they are channel 1, channel 2, they are disconnected. Channel 4 is disconnected, but channel 3 is having data. So channel 3 will take all the data from the input side. These are kind of little bit blue kind of packets. They will be transmitted from sender 3 to receiver 3. Obviously, there are intermediate packets. And channel 4 will be taking the data from 30th second to 40th second, and then it will take all the yellow data from the transmitter to the receiver side. What happens next? Next, again, the channel 1 is given the contention. Okay, so channel 1 means S1 to R1. In that case, from 40 seconds to 50 seconds, again channel 1 will get the contention. 50 to 60 seconds, channel 2 will get the contention. 60 to 70 seconds, channel 3 will get the contention, and 70 to 80 seconds, channel 4 will get the contention, and likewise it will go on. So not any channel is given too much of favoritism, too much of preference. Every channel gets 10-second slots after 30 seconds to transmit the data from transmitter to the receiver. So this is called contention based MAC protocol with time scheduling, but here many sender and many receiver. Let's take another case for the same thing where many sender but one receiver. So here the scenario is there are three paths. One is red path, one is black path, another is pink path, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. So every sender is having a data. So S stands for sender, R stands for receiver. So for the 0 to 10 seconds, so all wants a piece of receiver R. Initially, channel 1 is connected, channel 2 and channel 3, they are not connected. So there is a certain main body or there are the protocol actually decides, MAC protocol decides this, that which channel will be connected and which channel will not be connected. Okay, this is the job of MAC protocol. So sender 1 is connected for 0 to 10 seconds, red path is connected, channel 1 is connected. That's why this green data is taken from S1. So these green data are sensed data, maybe temperature, maybe pressure, maybe something. It will be sensed from S1 and it will be given to receiver R for 0 to 10 seconds time. So this is many sender, one receiver, case 1. So MAC protocol decides for 0 to 10 seconds, the red path will be connected. Next 10 to 20 seconds, channel 2 is connected, black path is connected. You can check this red path and pink path, they are open. Okay, so all this blue data from S2 sender node, they will be transmitted from the sender to the receiver in the next 10 seconds. Okay, that is from 10 seconds to 20 seconds. Receiver is same, but transmitters are different. If S1, S2, S3 all are transmitting data at the same time, there is no data collision at intermediate routing nodes, but there will be data collision at receiver, because the receiver is having only one transceiver. This receiver is having one receiving antenna, so that node data from N3, that is actually S1 data and S2 data and S3 data, all will be received by the receiver R at the same time, if there is no MAC protocol, if there is no scheduling. In that case, all this data collision will happen at the receiver end. But in this case, with time scheduling, that kind of thing is avoided. So for 10 seconds to 20 seconds, all these blue packets will be transmitted by path 2, that is the black path, and they will be given to the receiver R, so that you can check all these blue things are received at receiver R for 10 seconds to 20 seconds. Next, for 20 seconds to 30 seconds, all this data from sender node 3, because channel 3 is now connected. Okay, channel 1 and channel 2 are off. So S3 will be taking all the data and taking it to the receiver R. So there is no clash of data at any point. There is no clash of data at the receiver. And again, from 30 to 40 seconds, this S1 will get to transmit. 40 to 50 seconds, S2 will get to transmit. And 50 to 60 seconds, S3 will get to transmit. This is called polling. So this is how collision is avoided at the receiver end for a many sender one receiver case by contention based MAC with time scheduling. So this is contention based MAC protocol. Again, we have come to the first type. We will see this one protocol in detail. What this says is this protocol do not have bandwidth reservation or time scheduling reservation. So again, we have come to the first type of contention based. So whatever we have done for contention based with reservation and contention based with scheduling is done. These diagrams and understanding you can write if those questions are asked. But one part, contention based MAC, we will see in detail. So I'll just do this slide and I'll stop for this R. So contention based MAC, it does not have bandwidth reservation or mechanism of time scheduling. All the nodes with data packets are ready for transmission. So such ready nodes contend or engage in a fight simultaneously for a channel or medium access. The nodes that win the contention or wins the fight gains the total access of the channel. We have seen it previously. As there is no reservation of bandwidth or schedule, contention based MAC simple type, they cannot guarantee quality of service. Communication link break may happen anytime due to high node mobility. I told you the biggest problem in ad hoc is node mobility. So I have shown you topology, but that topology is highly dynamic. Okay, so anytime the path break might happen. So hence we cannot guarantee QoS. So hence the simple contention based MAC can't be used for real-time voice or data traffic. It's a very critical, very typical and important kind of application. We cannot use contention-based MAC simple type. Okay, so for very critical or typical application, we have to use contention-based MAC with some kind of reservation, either bandwidth reservation or time scheduling. Last thing, contention-based MAC solves the problem of CSMA-based data transmission. So what is CSMA? It is called carrier sense multiple access. So this is the most primitive type of communication which was there in ad hoc network or any wireless network. We'll start our next discussion in 10 minutes time with CSMA based data transmission. So I stop here. If you are having any doubt after listening, please write to me. Thank you.